October 15th and there's a lot going on. So I figured I would do a little vlog, a little spooky vlog. I'm currently in the middle of reading Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey, and I am loving it. So I'm actually co-hosting the book troop pick for October with Gabby from Gabby Reads. This is the October pick. And I was a little nervous about starting this, but I'm a little over 100 pages in now, and I think it's going to be one of my favorite books of the year. I'm really hoping it's going to be a 5-star because so far it is a 5-star to me. So this story centers around a young woman who returns home to care for her dying mother, and the home has a lot of history. You kind of get peeks into what that history is. Some murders happened there, and her father is a very infamous man, and they still haven't revealed all the details, which I love. I feel like there's a lot of build-up, there's a little teases of what's going on and what happened in the past, but the author is not giving it all away. So far, the story has really been about these characters. This woman named Vera, who is very troubled and struggling in life, and she did not have a good relationship with her mother, who is now dying, and her father is seemingly a killer, and she is trying to struggle with missing him and still caring for him because she had these good memories with him. So when she returns home, all these memories come flooding back, and she's basically cleaning out the house to get it ready for once the mother passes away. And I will tell you, the character development so far, I love it. They feel like real characters, and the relationship between Vera and her mother Daphne, the tension between them is so thick. I am so uncomfortable whenever they're in a room together because I never know what's going to come out of the mother's mouth. Vera, she's very much of like a spitfire, like she'll tell you off, she'll tell you how it is, but once her mother starts talking to her, she reverts back to being that little girl who was scared of her mother, and her mother is mean. Like, I feel like there's a lot of toxic stuff that happened in the household, and a part of it was the mother and how she treated the daughter. And there's one chapter 8, which is a dinner scene between Vera, the mother, and this house guest that is staying in the house because the house is kind of famous. And it is just one of the best scenes I've ever read because you're just getting to see these characters' personalities come through and shine and banter, and you're learning a little bit more about why each person is there. Then there's a shift in that chapter where the mother basically starts cutting into Vera, and basically I felt like she was telling her she was like a worthless piece of shit. Basically, she's like telling her how disrespectful she is. She reverts back to being her old self and talking to Vera like she's her little kid. And I was so uncomfortable. Like, I felt like I was in the room watching these two people fight, and I wasn't supposed to be there. Like, I'm just sitting there like staring awkwardly and uncomfortable and wanting to leave, but not wanting to leave because I want to hear the goods of what's being said. But it was just so well done. I loved that scene, that moment. And the mother's, she's so mean. I love stories about mother-daughter relationships, and this one is a doozy. And I think there's also talk of this house being haunted, but we haven't gotten into much of that yet. So I think it's going to be a slow process. It feels very gothic in that sense. I think the pacing in this is very well done. I think Sarah Gailey, they created some really interesting characters. And if you like stories that are filled with that are more character driven, I think you'll like this one. I'm really hoping I will still like it when I finish. Also, today I decided to stop at the bookstore because why? I don't know. First, I stopped at my local library. They were having a sale, and I found this book from Thomas Tryon, who is the author of The Other, which is a classic horror novel that is way ahead of its time. It set the stage for horror like The Sixth Sense. There's a twist in that book that you see more commonly now, but back then it was, I think, groundbreaking. And his writing is just, it's very unique. And this one is about a summer camp, and there's a lot of horrific stuff that happens, and I love the cover. It was only $1, support my local library, had to pick it up. Then I went to Barnes & Noble just to look, and I did not just look, but I only bought 3 books, so I'm pretty proud of myself for that. But I thought I'd show you them because I think they're perfect reads for spooky season. I hope, anyway. So the first one, Ghost Eaters. This book was the book that I went into there for, actually, and I found it. It was hidden in the new fiction section, and this is a story about a young woman whose best friend dies tragically, and I believe it was drug-related, and I think she investigates it more because her friend was struggling with addiction issues, and she learns that he was taking this new drug that allows you to communicate with the dead, I believe, and I think he just got too wrapped up into it. And I think she starts to investigate this, and she gets pulled into this world, and it's a little dangerous. It sounds a little like Flatliners to me, but I think it's going to be a heavy read filled with lots of discussion around addiction, depression, and loneliness, and all of that fun stuff. And the cover is breathtaking. It is absolutely beautiful. I love this. It's so haunting, and I cannot wait to read it. I also picked up Such Sharp Teeth from Rachel Harrison. This is about a woman who returns to her hometown to be with her pregnant sister who is having an issue with the baby's father. So she returns home to help take care of her. And I think that this is bringing up a lot of memories and a lot of inner turmoil and emotions for this woman. I think she's struggling a lot with where she is in her life and who she is as a person up to this point. One night she goes out to a bar, and when she's driving home, she hits an animal, which I think is a werewolf, and she gets bitten by this werewolf. And then she slowly starts to go through a transformation in more ways than one, and it just sounds fun, but also heavy. I don't know. It sounds like an adult version of Ginger Snaps, like a more adult-natured story. And as someone who's 35, I struggle with, am I good enough now where I am? Have I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish? You know, start questioning those things about who I am and where I am at this point in my life, and looking at comparing yourself to other people your age. Like, this is going to turn into a therapy session. But I'm really hoping that the story is more focused on that, because that's where I'm at in my life. These things are very adult concepts and themes, and I hope that's what the story focuses on. So I'm excited. I'm excited to check it out. And lastly, I picked up A Dowry of Blood. I was very excited to see this because I was looking for this last year, couldn't find it anywhere, and then I think it was out of print because they republished it with this cover, which I actually kind of like. I think it's beautiful. I think the original cover was a little bit better, but this one is just as pretty. And it's got those deckled edges, I think they are. So anyway, this story is about Dracula's brides. I think it's told from the bride's perspective. It's a very gothic, haunting story about that. And it sounds very atmospheric, and I'm into those vibes, those atmospheric, gothic, horror vibes for spooky season. So I'm hoping to get to this one soon as well, because it's been on my radar for a while. And I loved Carmilla, which I read last year, which sounds very similar in concept. It's not Dracula's brides, but it's very much a similar type of story centered around females. So I'm very interested to see how this one is. I've heard great things. So those are the 3 books I bought at Barnes & Noble, and this is the book I got at my local library, and hopefully I'll read them soon. Anyway, later tonight I'm going to meet my friends in Lee, New Hampshire to go to this haunted house called the Haunted Overload. It's incredible. It has won a national haunt contest, I think on ABC, because the stuff that they do at this haunt is like movie level. So I think I might give you a little peek at that later on and bring you with me. It's a long drive. It's like almost a 2-hour drive for me. So I'm a little nervous because I'm going at night. I hate driving at night, and you never know what's going to happen on the road. So stay tuned. Will I complete this vlog? We'll see. And also I'll update you when I read a little bit more of Just Like Home. currently at my mom's house, my old bedroom that has become where people iron their clothes and hang all their shit. So I'm gonna be going to a farm today with my family, and I'm wearing the same exact outfit I wore last night because I didn't bring anything because I didn't know I was gonna be going to this farm. But you know what? No one needs to know that. Except you guys. Anyway, last night was amazing. I went to the Haunted Overload. I hadn't been there in like 5 years. And it's just incredible, the scale, and they handcraft everything. It's incredible, it's amazing. And that's all before you get into the haunted house. Once you get into the haunt, you're walking through the woods, and it's just, they've built this like 2-scale haunted house, like an old school Victorian mansion style house. And you walk through it, and like the characters are pretty good. I got roasted for my jacket that I was wearing yesterday, which is a shacket, and they asked me if I was a scientist, and I can't get that out of my head now. So haunt was amazing. The haunt was amazing. If you're ever in the New England area around this season, you need to go to the Haunted Overload in Lee, New Hampshire. It is one of the best local haunts I've ever been to in my life. It's on par with Universal Halloween Horror Nights. Now I'm going to a farm to go pick pumpkins. So, and I'm looking like a pumpkin. Anyway, I'll probably show you some of that as well. And this is turning out to be a nice little spooky weekend vlog.
How big of a pumpkin are you gonna find?
The biggest pumpkin in the patch.
This big of a pumpkin.
Whoa, that big?
Yeah.
Read like 30 or 40 pages last night just because I didn't have enough time and I was tired, but I really liked what I did read. I'm getting a little bit more detail on Vera's history and her childhood. I think something dark happened with her childhood best friend, but we don't know that yet because the author hasn't revealed it. And I just like the relationship between Vera and her mother. It's very strange. It's almost like her mother was jealous of her as a child because of her father's love for her. Like she was competing for the father's love. And I think now as an adult, Vera is grappling with the fact that her mother is dying and she kind of wants that close bond with her mother, and her mother keeps like offering these little breadcrumbs, these little inklings of love for her. That's just shocking. Barlow is going crazy right now. Barlow, I'm trying to talk to the people about this book. I think there's a lot of themes of death and loneliness and trauma in this story, and I like the way the author is handling it. I think the relationships are fascinating, and I'm so excited to learn more and uncover the mystery. Hello. I just finished reading for the night. I have about 133 pages left, and I'm just chilling here with Barlow for the rest of the evening. Hey, sir. And yeah, this book is creeping me out a little bit because of the relationship between Vera and her father. It's slowly being revealed to us what their relationship was like when she was a kid. I don't know what's happening, but it seems that there's a lot more to Vera than originally was led on to us. Look at Barlow's face. This is me. I think she's not as innocent as she appears. And I feel like her relationship and bond with her father is built around this horrible thing that he has done. And we did finally get some revelations of what her father was doing. And there's a scene where Vera goes down into the basement where she has been forbidden to check it out. And the tension in that scene and the suspense, it was just well done. It was slow. Like, as slowly she crept down into the basement, slowly that scene was revealed to us. And it's interesting Vera's reaction to what she finds, because she didn't really react. She was just like, oh, which is strange, which is making me think she may like what's happening. It's so bizarre. And her father had this weird conversation with her about men, and it's just strange. And I don't want to say too much, but I also want to add that it's giving me Frailty vibes, the movie Frailty from Bill Paxton. And in that movie, Bill Paxton is like an upstanding father. He's super religious, and he does some things in that movie because he believes it's his duty to do so, and he gets his children involved. Barlow is getting tired of my talking, so I'm gonna finish up. But anyway, it's giving me Frailty vibes, which I like, and I think there's not as much supernatural stuff as I think was presented. She feels haunted by this house because this house has a hold on her, but not in a ghostly way. Barlow's licking the book now. I don't know why. Does it taste good? Hey guys, I'm here to close out this vlog. So I did finish Just Like Home, and I really loved it. So this story is really character driven, and it's about an abusive household where our main character, she grew up with monsters. Both her mother and father were monsters in their own way, and it's really about her dealing with that and grappling with it as an adult and coming to terms with who she is and how their relationships as a child affected her. It's just so well written. The dialogue in this is so good. Like, Sarah Gailey really created these characters that, even though they're kind of despicable, I just loved them. I loved reading from them. It was so exciting and scary and intense. Like, some of the conversations between Vera and her mother, I was on the edge of my seat, just like waiting for what was going to come out of Vera's mom's mouth, because she was deplorable. She was just a horrible person. Her mother basically looked at Vera as competition towards her father and her father's love, which is so weird. And I know that there's probably real families like this, and that's what's sad. This whole story is just truly sad. And I love that the house itself is a character. I can see the comparison to The Haunting of Hill House, because this story is really about the relationships between these people. It's about abuse and toxic relationships, depression, loss, all of that, and how this house plays a factor into all of these people's lives. I loved it. I think that the ending it confused me a little bit, to be honest, but I understood once I had time to sit with it what the author was trying to say. And there's just some really vivid, creepy imagery towards the end of the book, and it just felt really emotional and powerful. I'm really glad I read this book. It's not about actual physical ghosts. It's more focused on the metaphorical. It might be slow for some. Some might find it boring because not a ton of ghostly supernatural stuff happens. There aren't like huge twists in this story. I read some reviews that said they didn't like it because they guessed the shocking twist, but I disagree. I feel like if a book or a story is written well, you should be able to figure out what the author is trying to say and where they're leading you to. Like, a twist shouldn't come out of nowhere, and it doesn't have to be a shocking revelation. And I knew where they were going with the story, but it was just the buildup, the tension and the suspense, and you don't know the full story. So when it's finally revealed, you're like, okay, I get it now. So I just feel like this was all about the journey. And the journey, it was a dark one, but it was so engaging and entertaining. I couldn't stop reading it or thinking about it, and it's still living in my head like 2 days later because I finished it 2 days ago. I don't think the author set out to make any shocking twists. You know from the bat that Vera's father was a killer. It's in the plot. He buried people in their home. You know what's funny is I also loved Just Like Mother. So 2 books with just like in the title ended up being my favorite. This is another contender for favorite of the year. This, Just Like Mother, they're both similar stories that are focused on mothers and the relationship with the mother. And I eat that shit up. So if you're like me, if you do like more psychological stories that are centered on the characters more than shocking twists and plot, I think you'll really like this one. I love this. I need to read more from this author, and I highly recommend it. I'm excited to talk more about it with Gabby on October 29th, I believe. I could be wrong, but I will put that information down in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed coming with me to the Haunted Overload and coming pumpkin picking with me and my family. It turned out to be a nice little weekend of Halloween fall activities in New England. And yeah, thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a wonderful, spooky fall season, and I will catch you next time. Bye, guys.